now. Me and you, we ain't the same now. Lions coming out to play now. Opposition out the way now. Out of the way. You wasn't invited. Say you come to play. I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me. Then step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Game now, me and you, we ain't the same now. Lions coming out to play now. Opposition out the way now. Out of the way. You wasn't invited. Say you come to play. I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me. Then step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way.
Live from iRacing's virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round 3 of the 2022 Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. It is America's racing showplace, and we're happy that you're spending your Monday night with us here on RaceSpotTV with another packed full broadcast team. Happy to bring you coverage of tonight's Las Vegas 200. Alongside of myself, Evan Pasoko, joined by Terry Radford and Nolan Rempel in the broadcast booth. We will also have special driver analyst Andrew Freenosh alongside, as well as our producer Joshua Lee downstairs. And guys, first and foremost, for this 2023 iteration of this Vegas race, Nolan, I'll go to you first on this one. First intermediate racetrack of the year. We're starting to get into the familiar territory. This was a point from last week's race at Fontana, right? Wasn't really a second trip to Fontana. The packages were so different. Not really the case here on the intermediate racetracks. These have been good in these next-gen cars, stemming back to last year, and we get our first taste of them here tonight.
It's known as one of the fastest mile and a halves of the NASCAR circuit for a reason. You can hit speeds here of up to 185 miles an hour, and that is when you're running by yourself. That is faster than qualifying speeds that we set at the Daytona International Speedway. This is one of the fastest tracks out there. It's one of the biggest banked mile and a half racetracks we have out there, and it's wide as well. Down that nose straightaway, very easy to fit 3 and 4 wide. I have a feeling we're going to be seeing a lot of that here tonight, especially down on that apron on the tri-oval.
I hope that it's a little bit more exciting of a race than the one that I saw yesterday at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, Terry, but I always love a multi-group, a progressively banked racetrack. And here's a look at the point standings coming into this afternoon. 2 races and 2 winners. It was the defending series champion, Papineau Phillip, who won last week at the Auto Club Speedway. He joins Daytona 250 winner Esteban Rodriguez at the top of the playoff standings.
Yeah, it was an impressive win for Papineau Phillip last week, but I got to look at the guy that's sitting on top of the point standings, Esteban Rodriguez, sorry. The fact that he won Daytona, showed up last week at Auto Club, put on a really strong performance. Coming to Vegas, kind of similar to Auto Club, just a little smaller, but still racier. We'll see what that 16 machine can do, and if you're looking at anybody back there underneath Andrew Phipps in 16th, you're not worried about points just yet, but there's a lot of people down there early in the season, like Cody Harris and Sam Nieto, that might want to figure it out because, well, you can't let anybody get too far ahead.
Yeah, it is certainly far too early to hit the panic button, but you do not want to be digging out of a hole, and you do not want it to get worse. You take a look at the long road to round number 20. That second trip to Daytona will be when we establish the playoff grid, but a couple of staple tracks coming up next on the calendar, including the first of 2 trips this year to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, the first of 2 trips this year to the Phoenix Raceway, and the first of 2 trips to Atlanta Motor Speedway, Nolan. So what we are seeing over the next 3 weeks is a really good preview of what we'll see a lot later this year as well, which will be interesting.
Well, it certainly is. I mean, we'll be coming to this race for the first time in March. The next time we visit this race will be for the first race of the round of 8 over all the way on October the 16th for the 4th to last race on the season. You take a look from our friends over at Google Earth at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. A few configurations at the racetrack. Obviously, we're using the 1.5-mile oval today, but you can see the Little Legends oval that you got down there in the D-Oval infield, as well as, of course, the road course down to that infield grass as well. Very seldom used on the iRacing surface, but still always there nonetheless. Who knows? Maybe at some point in the very distant future. But for now, it's the 1.5-mile speedway we'll be set to see over here in Sin City.
Yeah, they've got the exotics racing, the drive-it experience that happens at the infield road course. There is an outfield road course here outside of the racetrack. There is a paved short track. There is a dirt short track. There is a drag strip. There are 2 additional road courses on the outside of the complex here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Again, super biased opinion, but a really great facility and a very fun 1.5-mile speedway as we jump in qualifying. 5 minutes, single car runs, and the first time this season we have eliminations, Terry. 43. The magic number that can make the field. 45 cars right now in qualifying. So for the first time this year, we're sending people home.
Yeah, so it's going to make things interesting. It's something that I kind of wish that the real NASCAR side would bring back, is bring more people out to the racetrack and put more cars on it. And I get you're a little biased with the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, but I got to say, first time I ever visited Hickory Motor Speedway, I'm a little biased too. First time ever calling a live race at Hickory. I think that's a little bit better and puts on a little bit better race than the Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
Right now, a couple of big names down towards the bottom as we race in the final 44 seconds to see who's going to make the event or not. It is worth noting drivers who fail to qualify for the race will get a 10-point consolation for a deferred start. That 10 points actually going to be more points than what some drivers in the field will earn, although I don't think we're going to see many people trying to lay over to get those 10 points. I think the opportunity to score as many as some 45 points and even 50, I think, is the biggest attraction for the drivers throughout the field here. But unless something changes in these closing moments, it's looking like on the outside, Andrew Phipps and Richard Woodruff. If that holds, Nolan, that's going to put 2 drivers who have competed in the opening couple of races on the outside.
Qualifying just concludes, and that's going to mean it will be Phipps and Woodruff who will be eliminated from the race today. They will be having to go home early. So 43 cars. The last driver in the one on the bubble spot was the 42 car of Tom Morano. So it's going to be an interesting ride then to see what these guys will be able to do. It was relatively close, only about a 1/10 of a second separating Morano from Phipps. But there was about half a second back to Woodruff. That 27 car just didn't have it in qualifying today.
Just didn't have it. And let's take a look at the track conditions for this afternoon's race. It is much warmer than I was out in the grandstands yesterday afternoon. 65 degrees Fahrenheit. It's 81 down trackside. A little bit of wind, partly cloudy. And again, West Coast race means that we're a little bit before noon as we approach the green flag here. To keep up with our virtual fans on the East Coast, these West Coast races like to get off and away a little bit early. Now is a good opportunity to bring in the 4th member of tonight's broadcast team. It is 4-time Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series champion Andrew Freenosh. And Andrew, first and foremost, thanks for being with us again.
Great to be back. Definitely looking forward to this race, Evan. And this setup tonight is going to be extremely good for these drivers. Very loose tires are really going to wear, so that's really going to have to factor into these drivers tonight. And this track is awesome. You could really run almost every lane. The bottom is most preferred, but definitely excited to watch up here, and thrilled you guys had me back.
I am biased, of course, being my hometown track, but compare this to some of the other intermediate racetracks, right? I think too many times a 1.5-mile oval gets clumped in with all the other 1.5-mile ovals. What makes Vegas different? What are going to be some of those key differences that will affect tonight's race?
Yeah, this track is very, very inviting to kind of push yourself too much. The track is extremely fast, as we mentioned earlier, and that opens it up to running fast these first, 10, 20 laps, but your tires are going to really, really fade. So you kind of have to watch yourself that you're not going too hard and, still going hard enough not to lose all the track position. And again, you can run almost every lane here. You can run the outside wall, you can run the middle, and you can run the bottom. The preferred groove's still on the bottom, but you could definitely spread out if you need to.
And we can confirm, of course, that it will be Phipps and Woodruff missing the grid for this race, so they'll end up with a deferred start. When we don't have races, Andrew, where drivers are going to get eliminated, we'll actually see maybe a third of the field not decide to qualify, right? They're like, hey, I want to start at the back. Certainly that's more prevalent at the super speedway races like Talladega and like Daytona. When everybody has to qualify, does that maybe mess up your race strategy, or is it not that much of a factor? Everybody wants to put down the best lap they can and start as far towards the front in these cars.
Yeah, an interesting fact with that is sometimes, you'll see the good guys, the Agnell Phillips, the Matt Dances, they might take it a little easier in qualifying. You want to qualify in pole, but you want to make sure you don't mess up, and you're just going to make the race in the first place. So some of the guys might go just a little less than they could. And I think you've seen that, Agnell qualified, 9th or 10th there. So, just kind of take it easy, make sure you're in the show, and then, you'll go from there.
So we'll look for them to make their way back through the grid. Previous race winners here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, including the spring race of last year. Connor Horn is not competing in the race here today. Of course, it is a Speedway playoff race as well. Kevin King won that race last season. He is also not in the field here this afternoon. So curious if that opens up a door for somebody else to maybe jump in and take advantage of that. But inching closer and closer to the start of tonight's Las Vegas 200. Andrew, we appreciate the time, and we'll be jumping back and forth between you and everybody else up here to get your insights as tonight's race progresses. Nolan, I'll jump back to you on this one as we get set to get underway. Again, Vegas is a track that's been on the calendar for so long, and when we run 30 races, we don't always go to duplicate racetracks a lot, but you mentioned this race kicks off the round of 8, so maybe tonight our first good preview of what we might see later this year. And there does historically tend to be a lot of people who, if you have success in the spring, you have success in the fall. So I'm not saying it's a championship preview week 3. We're not getting ahead of ourselves that much, but this is a racetrack that everybody's super familiar with. Of course, it's always on the Winter Series calendar as well.
It's a racetrack that a lot of drivers are familiar with. It's not uncommon for us to visit this track 3 times in a calendar year, which is not something that a lot of other racetracks can say out there for sure. So I think this is, as you put it correctly, going to be the first good time we're going to actually get a good look onto what we can expect to see a little bit further down the line. If anything, I think this race is going to be messier than the one we're going to be seeing in October, because you still have a lot of drivers that are new to the series here and trying to dust off some cobwebs.
Well, let's go down trackside and take a look at your Get Wet Sports starting grid for tonight's Las Vegas 200. And it is Grant Davis on pole position for Flat Out Esports, 30.186. He'll start alongside Brandon Bowie. Paul Bergoli, Jeremy Richmond on row 2. It's Agnell Phillip and Spencer Kostowicz, row 3.
Row number 4 is going to hold Thomas George with Nicholas Mara, Eric Stanford, and Kyle Trudell rounding out the top 10. Cody Harris and Matt Danson on row 6.
Back here to Jason Staney, William Smith, Ryan Dunkelberger, who got Dunkel dumped last week, is there with Braden Whitaker, David Cobb, and Jaron Weinmaster rounds out the top 18.
Joseph Tyson, Bradley Burke to be back on row 10. That's halfway home. Ross Cato, Esteban Rodriguez, 21st and 22nd. Brett Pancari and Sam Nieto through your top 24.
Landon Mills, Gregory Shaw on row on 25th to 26th. Eric Papineau, Sean Cast on row 27 to 28. Madati Major and Nicholas Renner back in the 29th and 30th positions.
31st, you find Sean Kalis, Michael Laraya, Steve Tucker, Brandon Fetterplace, Brian Dixon, and Carl Pooler rounds out 36th.
And towards the rear, it's Newen Flores, Jeremy Miller, Richard Wolsifer, Alexander Light, Mike Kaczynski, Steve Durham, and the final car in on time, Tom Morano in 43rd. That is look top to bottom at your Get Wet Sports starting grid. GetWetSports.com is the world's first digital content library, which showcases and celebrates creators of all sizes and backgrounds, including iRacing, military gamers, and women in gaming. Getting listed is free. Find out more at GetWetSports.com and start on your content creation journey today. Lights out on top of the pace car. Going to be going to the green flag this next time by. Tonight's race, 134 laps in length, 201 miles scheduled distance here in the Las Vegas desert. And as always, happy that you're spending your Monday evening with us here on RaceSpotTV. Field will go in control of the number 24. That's Grant Davis. On the inside of row number 1, Brandon Bowie alongside. They head to the restart zone. Let's go racing from Las Vegas. Not a lot of separation in the midfield as it is pole sitter Grant Davis leading lap number 1. Paul Bergoli picks up a spot on the inside, move the 3 car to second.
So far, very good, clean start in this field. You saw them get a little bit tight as we came on down into more turn numbers 3 and 4 down the Nella straightaway. For the most part, they're going to keep it sorted. Davis and Bergoli on a 2-car breakaway to lead lap number 2 as the field is double file from about that 8th place on back.
You see a difference of balance of how things are going to go. You see drivers like Jeremy Richmond back here in dirty air, and then you see Grant Davis and Paul Bergoli up front trying to check out, putting, blistering laps down. They are they're running qualifying speeds around this 1.5 mile track as the rest of the field is just simply trying to find their clean air. Last week's winner, Agnell Phillip, puts himself into P3 as Kosowitz comes behind him in 4th.
You can see those top 2 trying to run away for the battle. 3rd on to back. We look at now, headed up by Agnell Phillip, already up 2 spots. Dancy, you talk about him. He's up 7 once more. Looking to the inside now, trying to get around. Spencer Kostowicz in the battle for 4th and 5th position. And he is just about clear as they come off of turn number 4. Kostowicz, though, not going to roll over, sticks with him on the outside line. Only car up on the top in this battle right now, as at 7 looks even further down to the inside of the racetrack. Kyle Trudell trying to push through. Kostowicz has got a couple of spots at risk here. If he can't shake these cars off, Phillip sees a run. He'll go to the outside and block, but Kostowicz doing his best at hanging tough up top in the 09 Ford. In fact, gaining ground on Danson this time off of 4.
Now, the good thing about what Kostowicz is doing here is he's forcing Matt Danson further down low on the racetrack, and he's forcing that 38 car to chew up his tires as the Logitech G Altus Esports machine has not been able to push up clear towards the wall. Agnell Phillip's 851 Pro Chevrolet in a similar position, but now Phillip will finally get clear for 3rd. Danson, though, still going to be side by side with the SimLab Mustang, and every lap that Danson is stuck on the inside line here, he is churning up those right side tires.
You're starting to see a little bit more of a battle. Everybody caught back up to the race leaders. You got the 09 working the outside lane here on Matt Danson. And then we go a little further on back where the air Andrew Freenage is not so friendly. Last week we talked about the air disturbing the cars. This week, I feel like it's a little bit worse.
Yeah, it definitely is. These cars are very loose this week, and if you get below somebody, the car kind of gets upset with that air. You just can't get a run on exit, and we're really seeing that at the battle for 5th there.
Jumping back a little bit further, and you can see the battle right here in the middle of the pack. Down on the inside, that's the 66 machine of Gregory Shaw. It's Joseph Tice up truck trying to hang on, and you got even a battle a couple of rows back from that as well. Jeremy Miller leads a bit of a battle. Brandon DeBuey, Nicholas Renner. You got Fetter placed low, Schmidt up high. This is back in the teens where it looks like a lot of pack racing back there so far. Still early into this run, 6 laps down. Grant Davis has led them all so far.
Las Vegas Motor Speedway tends to be one of those tracks that if you can keep the lead of the first few laps, you're going to be pretty well sorted for a good chunk later on into this race, especially if you're not necessarily breaking away from the field. It means your tires are not going to be falling off a whole lot, and you're not pushing that car too hard. Grant Davis has been, at the moment, doing a fine job on keeping Bergoli at just such a distance that he can't close up with time to get down to the corners, but also doing a fine job on trying to keep himself steady up in front. Caution is out as we're crashing it big time off of turn number 4. It's a parking lot. Still got cars scrambling to the inside, and it looks like about a 3, maybe 5 car incident there coming off that final corner.
Like a massive caution. I think it triggered up there. Joseph Tice was battling. We kind of highlighted that battle that had continuously kept agging on, going 2 wide, 3 wide at some points. If you look at the Full Throttle Real Sim Cup Racing replay here, and yeah, started Landon Mills. He's sailing in the corner. They're rolling. There's Tice on the outside. Oh, a checkup on the bottom. And man, he overcorrected it. Goes into the 5, turns the Valvoline car around, and well, the Days of Thunder looking car. He put a couple scratches on that, but Dunkelberger again, overcharging the bottom and washed up, and everybody else just so missing it by inches.
Yeah, that could have been a lot worse right there. There was about 7 other cars that could have piled in. Still a pretty big hit. Burke got into the outside wall. The 5 was turned around. Nicholas Renner I'm pretty worried about because the 46 hit the 26 pretty hard, and front-end damage doesn't react well with these cars, but he might be all right. I mean, all things considered, I think it looked worse than it actually ended up being. About 4 cars total. We'll get some significant damage in that one, but it is an early caution flag here in Vegas. Last year's race here for the 3rd round of the season had 9 yellow flags. We had double digits last week. Andrew, is that something that drivers kind of anticipate based on the racetracks we're at, or is that kind of an early season expectation as, you know, drivers have to get settled in and kind of learn the ebbs and flows?
Yeah, I'd definitely say it's more of an early season thing. A lot of new faces here in the league, and that happens every year, and you just got to get used to racing these guys. That case, it just was a checkup, and you got to feel for Joseph Tice. I've been in that situation. He didn't do anything wrong, just wrong spot, wrong place, and got collected. But definitely these guys just kind of have to get used to racing each other, and I mean, you kind of saw it there. Someone checked up and just overcorrected and caused a mess on the front stretch.
So a mess early sends a couple of fast race cars to the back of the grid. It'll give an opportunity for everybody else up front to kind of check their bearings. There was a lot of big movement in that short early run. Danson ended up at +8, Trudell at +5. How about in the midfield? Gregory Shaw +12 spots up to 14th. So short stint, but guys certainly took advantage of it.
And not the longest of stints indeed, and this is going to be, I think, far from the last stints that we're going to be seeing on the night as well, as the aggression was certainly up there. It was high in the early goings here of this race, as even now, you still have drivers down at pit road trying to get the top up on fuel. Some drivers trying to get some damage repaired as well, while guys still try to stay on the lead lap. Obviously, safety car going to pull around to the back straightaway for the final time. We're going to go back to green flag racing for what will be lap number 13. Not a number that typically bodes all too well, but we'll, I guess, see how this restart pans out.
Gonna put 12 laps behind us. Grant Davis choosing the inside line for the restart. Bergoli gonna be put up top. We'll see how he can capitalize. He made a quick pass on your 2nd place starter in this race, Brandon DeBuey, And we'll see how things shake through here with the pace car off and in. 24 is going to wait for the white hashes on the inside line to go. He'll bring us to it. Green flag in the air. And another good start for the bottom is Papineau Phillip already clear of Brigoli to turn 1.
That restart was very textbook there as Davis did what he needed to do. He got through the gears really well, but for Brigoli on the outside lane, he allowed Papineau Phillip to get right underneath him. He didn't time the restart in the box like our guest would have, potentially. So now he's trapped up there on the outside. He made it work. He went powering up there. Really made it stick, rolled the throttle really well. Now you still see side-by-side action going back here from about 5th on back.
And up towards the front, Grant Davis started to really walk out that lead now up to about 3.5 tenths of a second as he hightailed it down the back straightaway. We're looking at Cody Harris in the moment along with the 98 of Jeremy Richmond. Richmond's got Cato up on his top shelf, but the Bagel Man going to continue to rip that high side. Harris down low, and he's going to keep in line with David Call, trying to get that draft going. Nick Mara going to jump down to the inside line, has had enough of running up on the top groove.
It's had enough as they rocket down the Nellis straightaway. There's a good look at the number 28 machine of Cody Harris as he rides in 13th position at the moment. Pretty stagnant from where he started and is doing his best to fight off the big movers. Cato, Rodriguez, and Shaw all running right around him. Started back in the 20s. Have been able to race their way up towards him. So he's trying to shake off those challenges, but to no avail at the current moment, as they're all going to be able to get by him at the moment, and he'll try to do his best to catch back up on the bottom, but they're still 2x2 back here, tighter than they were coming to the restart.
And now it's going to be way up on the outside line for a lot of the drivers as this field started to condense. Talked about how Grant Davis had just a second ago walked the gap out 3.5 tenths. It just closed into under a tenth of a second as we hightailed it down to turn numbers 1 and 2. The field started to push back together. You pull out a big lead here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It does not take a whole lot, Terry, for these guys to reel you on in. And I have a feeling that's got to do something to do with the draft once these guys get up to speed.
Yeah, you get a pretty substantial draft going down the back straightaway here, and kind of what we saw at Auto Club last week, kind of a tighter field, close-knit together with the same car, same package. Everybody has to deal with the same thing as the battle for the lead heats up. Here comes the 94 of Papineau Phillip, down low in 1 and 2 on the 24 of Grant Davis. First battle we have seen shape up for the lead as they come down the Nellis back straightaway. It's side by side.
Last week's winner, Papineau Phillip, is looking for more to the inside of Davis, but that progressive banking going to allow the 24 to wind her up and shoot her straight on the front stretch, and he's able to pull back to about a car length of an advantage. But these top four on top of each other. Brigoli looking to the outside. Danson going to hold true on the bottom. Does that squeeze the 33 out of real estate here? Danson doing his best to hang on the quarter panel of Brigoli. 33 car trying to find his own way around, but he opened up the gap that was quickly filled by the 38, and they'll be side by side for third. As off of 4, here comes Phillip down to the inside for the race lead into turn 1.
Side by side, the 851 Pro Chevrolet to the inside. Let's see design number 24. Grant Davis way up the track with Brigoli following. Going to get the drive up and wind up a punch off of turn number 2 down the middle of the straightaway. He does. He gets clear. Does he jump down low? No, he can't. Phillip still just had the nose in, but he'd be able to get clear and jump down off of turn number 4. Davis continues to hang on for the lead. And now here comes Brigoli trying to see if he can pick up a second place here on Phillip.
Who tucks back in line behind the 94 of Papineau Phillip. Doesn't look to make a move here as we go single file all the way back to right at the top 10 marker, where you see Cato, Staney, and Cody Harris starting to fight a little further on back here. This is an interesting dynamic that we find ourselves in, Evan, as the 57 of Staney is going to make the pass on Bagel Boy Ross Cato on that bottom side. No Bagel here tonight, just a focused Red Sox or Atlanta Braves fan back here, just patiently riding. I'm very curious though, because Well, our producer told us that Brett Pancari has a pretty awesome shirt. He's kind of won the whole the whole style. Here it comes. I mean, I'm very curious to maybe see what the 35 machine had going on here this afternoon with his onboard cam. Bigfoot. So that's why he won. Okay, he won for the there, and he moved his hand for us to see it. He won
45th anniversary crew shirt.
He won because of Monster Jam. Makes total sense.
Digging it. Got the shirt. Got it hung up on the wall as well. Some nice vintage tees for the monster truck world. That is a common Brett Pancari W. However, not translating to speed on track right now. 36th position. But he's got the style. He's got to improve on the track position. We'll see what he can do over the course of this race as we jump back up front. Davis still the leader. However, Brogoli, via the outside line, was able to get ahead of Agnell Phillips. So it's no longer Phillip challenging for the lead. It's Brogoli. But, man, did he really wash up there and had to burp it just a little bit off of turn 2. And it's going to leave a gap now. Davis still a car length to the good, but I mean, dealer's choice. I think now's the time to say it of any. I think it could be any of these guys going to the race lead. Look at it. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. The side-by-side battle for 6 and 7. Nobody is allowing your race leader, Grant Davis, to get away at all.
And this is again going to put that pressure on Davis here, as guys I imagine like Freenosh can attest to, that they'll be able to get to wear down those tires that little bit more. At this point, it is all about trying to stay calm with the number 24 car. And Andrew, if you're the one leading this race right now and you got the whole field breathing down your neck, what are you trying to do to navigate with the kind of pressure that you must be feeling from Brogoli here?
I'm doing exactly what Grant Davis has done so far, and I've been extremely impressed. He's kept the lead. He's run the outside when he needed to, but he's keeping that track position. There's no better feeling than being out front. You don't have to deal with dirty air. You're seeing these guys start to run the outside. You can definitely do that the pass, as we see Agnell about to go for the race lead here, but it is going to burn your tires. I think Agnell, he thinks he's saved enough, and he's really going for it. The one guy I'm watching is Matt Danson. He's been watching these guys fight side by side. He's just been back there saving tires, so we'll have to see at the end of this run if he starts coming forward.
Yeah, I like that point that you bring up right there, Andrew, as it's risk versus reward at a lot of these racetracks, and it's awesome to have insight from you racing this car last season to come up here. You know, I know a little bit, but the fact that you're coming fresh off of a really good season, Final Four competitor, and jumping up here to put on this side is really breathtaking. To just be able to pick your brain on what we have as Agnell Phillip drives up there and takes this race lead on the 24 Grant Davis. I would be kind of nervous if I'm the rest of the field. I said it last week to end the show, Evan. If he's this fast this early, I know y'all said in the opening monologue to this show here that this might not be a championship preview and we don't want to jump ahead. I think I would pretty much put a safe bet on blue 94 at the roulette table.
And it also wouldn't shock me if Davis were to be there. Thomas George, Cody Harris, and Brogoli impressive so far. Vetson, Stanford, Danson, Trudell. I mean, it is a heavy hitter centric top 10 early in this race, and give Brogoli his credit, coming out strong. Thomas George maybe performing at the highest level we've ever seen from one of the longest time running Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series vets. As he started 7th, is up to 3rd, and he will be the next to challenge the 24 in his Steel Horse Racing Ford. So as Agnell Phillip tries to settle into a groove, P2's on the line, and let's see now that Phillip's got the clean air. Will he be able to pull away, or will this tightly condensed top 10 stay as it looks now?
Well, the way Las Vegas tends to work is once these packs start to separate out, you're going to get yourself with these little trains here and these little individual packs here all the way up until pit stop. So I don't think this top 10 run is going anywhere anytime soon, as Thomas George shoots for the inside, goes right down onto the apron, pushes up the track, and nearly puts Davis up into the outside wall. That's always a risky thing, going down onto the apron in the D-Oval a mile and a half like this one, and it's not something we talk about enough. It's it can gain you a lot of time in the short run going down there, but you're immediately going to lose a whole lot of the speed. Not to mention you're going to lose cornering as you're going to try to push right back up onto the racetrack. So that if the guy above you tries to pin you down onto that apron, you're going to be in for a real bad time when you start to track back up to make the dive down for turn 1.
Oh, come on, Nolan. You're in Vegas. You got to push the limits. You don't walk into a casino with your Ocean's 11 or Ocean's 12 tuxedo if there's a massive wreck into turn number 1. Well, there's Joseph Tice again, and I think Brett Pancari's in it because he's not on the wheel and he looks pissed.
He's just kind of sitting there taking stock of what happened with the VR goggles on, and it was indeed a big mess. Headed off to turn number 1. Let's take a second look at the replay as Steve Tucker has claimed responsibility for the incident, and the double O car just got loose in the tri-oval.
Wow.
What?
Came down, hooks the 30, and that is a massive, massive hit to the outside wall for Mike Kaczynski. Watch him just get loose.
It's going to happen right there when he comes up across those Picari. I think the 35 took the air off the back end. I think that's what ended up happening there. He pushed up, and he got aero washed out by the 35, and that's what hooked him around.
Andrew, I swear, this is 2 weeks in a row that we have seen a very questionable wreck. I think no, there's no way he took the air off that, Andrew.
I will have to defend him. Sometimes these cars do get a little free through the tri-oval. We see it in the trucks with open setups. We see it with cars with heavy horsepower. It does happen, but I'm not too sure on that one as they're coming down the pit road here.
Let's go on board with Steve Tucker and on its own.
What in the world?
Car was turned the opposite way. It just started sliding on him, and look at that mess that it caused off into turn number 1. Steve Tucker claiming responsibility for the incident. If there's anything left of that race car, he'll get an end of the longest line penalty. High above the Petty Grandstand Terrace down in turn number 1 as we are on pit road. It is a unanimous decision through the field, and as they race off pit road, Philip the Best barely. He will lead the race off of pit road. Harris, George, Kostowitz, Danson, your top 5. Everybody goes for 4, so no rolling of the dice this early with still 100 laps to go.
Overall, a fairly uniform pit stop there for a lot of drivers in this field, especially the ones that had not come down so far. It's about as good a time as Andy to come on down to get tires. He got about 100 laps left on the boards. Actually, we will have exactly 100 laps left on the boards this next time by, and then we'll be able to get ourselves into a fairly steady strategy of pitting about once every 40-ish laps or so. Then you'll be pretty solid to go then until the end of this race. That's provided, of course, we continue to get cautions in about that string of patterns. Otherwise, we're still in for that one stopper around halfway through these through the remainder of the laps we got left.
I got a question for Andrew. I'm gonna start calling you RSR Goat. So RSR Goat, if put yourself in the mind here for a second of, well, now this is kind of weird because the 24 of Grant Davis is 6th. So you're the furthest back that you've been all night. You've been 1st or 2nd. What do you do in this situation?
So this is really interesting because we're right about on the fuel window. So you're going to see guys try to save. I think you can make it from here, especially with these caution laps. So I think for Grant Davis, he's probably going to want to get back to the front. You've seen these guys saving tires. You're more than welcome to go to the outside and pass them. It's just a question of if we're going to go green. And in my opinion, I don't think we're going to go green more than 20, 30 laps. So if I'm him, I'm going to the front.
We'll see if it plays out that way. The light's still on top of the pace car as we tiptoe our way around under the yellow flag. Again, everybody unanimous decision there on pit road, so there's not a ton of big swings. Should note that Landon Mills, who was involved in the early accident on lap number 10 of this race, has gone to the garage. Brett Pancari out of this race as well. He is also in the garage 42nd. And then a couple of cars a lap down, including -2 for Sam Nieto in 41st and -1 for both Steve Tucker and Mike Kaczynski, 39th and 40th position. Those are the issues, I will say, for the drivers towards the rear of the field in this one. As you take that high look above, good look at the infield road course there, the front stretch Legends Oval, which admittedly, I don't know if it ever gets used because you got the bullring right next door. Right-hand side of the screen, top side, you can see the NHRA drag strip. Top left-ish, you can see the other of the outside road courses, plus you got the dirt track up there, and then out of the shot in the bottom left, you got another road course there. You got the bullring, the paved short track. I mean, there's a lot of things going on here. You can actually, I think, find it interesting enough, race that infield road course on the sim. Rovals at tracks that are not Charlotte, a lot of fun. I don't know if they'd be good for a 43 car grid, but they're pretty fun in a cup car.
They certainly are, and I can tell you right now that at least on the infield road course, I've driven it a few times in some testing sessions, and you get a good road car, a club car, even a GT3 car, at least by yourself, it can be a pretty good time. There have been better road courses, but there's certainly been worse ones as well, so there's always something to do around the Las Vegas Motor Speedway or the properties surrounding it, and I almost hope that we go to a track like the Bullring at some point with the NASCAR Series of the Future. That would be just absolute chaos, and I'm all for it.
We'll see how this restart plays out. Pace car off it in. It's Agno Phillips' first turn to be in control on the bottom. Green flag back in the air.
Field hightails it up around the high banks of Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Agno Phillip now pulling out a gap, but Cody Harris going to have that draft here as he starts to close him on down. I believe he'll be right on that back bumper by the end of lap 38.
Good to see the 28 of Cody Harris starting to have a decent run as he's got the 09 of Kosowitz. I think I keep saying that right. We finally get to talk about him, Evan. He's up there on that outside, making quick work up there, able to pull to P2, was able to clear, and well, Andrew, a.k.a. RSR GOAT, he's doing what you said. The 24 jumps to that outside. He's right on the back bumper in P2 of Agno Phillip.
Not surprised. He's been out front, and I think that's where he's comfortable, and you're seeing it right now. Battle for the lead. He's going straight to the front, as I said he would.
To the outside and zero hesitation, race leader to the number 24 Chevrolet of Grant Davis. Phillip led 11, but Davis, who started on pole and led the opening 26 laps of this race, is back in control. We'll see if he's able to pull away. He did so significantly on the first run of the race. He was unable to pull away on the second, and that's where the big challenge from Agno Phillip came from.
And now Davis back out in front of the race lead. He's led the most laps so far of anybody today, and he's going to log yet another one as we cross it over onto lap number 40. The field, though, condensed up behind him. It is once again a hornet's nest, and not one that Davis wants to be sucked back into the middle of. He wants to remain up in front, but here comes Phillip, charging for the race lead. No self-preservation when it comes to tires for the A51 Pro Chevy, as he's going to scream to the inside, trying to pick it up, but Davis pulls the top shelf. That outside lane getting a bit more rubbered in, and it's allowing for better and better runs off of turns 2 and 4.
Yeah, it's good to see a multi-groove racetrack actually be used properly by the drivers. Most of the time we come to these racetracks and everybody gets kind of skittish. Nobody really wants to jump to that outside lane this early. And look at Eric Papineau. We haven't talked about him too much this season. The 37 Meineke machine pulls up to that outside lane. He's charging for the lead. Kind of risk versus reward, Evan. You don't want to burn it up too early. Maybe, just maybe, that 37 could put a complete race together and get a win finally in RSR.
Would certainly like to see that happen. And as they come off of 2, Davis tries to hold strong, but on the outside, Eric Papineau to the race lead in the Las Vegas 200. Second time in a row, the pass has been made up top, and on that Meineke Chevrolet is cooking. It is an all bow tie. 1, 2, 3. They're followed up by a set of 4 Fords. Rodriguez, Kostowicz, George, and Stanford 4, 5, 6, and 7 as they run closely behind. And then look at that mid-pack. Plenty of side-by-side action from the number 40, Nick Mara, in 8th on back. What a run for Mara so far.
And Nick Mara has had himself so far a very phenomenal run in his race here tonight. He's been he's been actually one of the few drivers that's been very consistently kind of inside the top 10. He started the 8th, he currently runs in 8th spot. So Mara has not been one of those drivers like Paul Bergoli or Jimmy Richmond where they've been dropping spots. The driver that's gained the most though is your current race leader, Eric Papineau, up 26 and rocketing away from this field. He's walked down almost a second big gap, and that's because the entire field right behind the Huron shot can't get themselves sorted. We're 3 wide, it turns 3 and 4. Carl bobbles from the middle and nearly takes out Wymaster on the top side.
Cobb's been loose all race long. I almost pointed it out earlier at about lap 15 when I saw him come off the corner. He was shaking the car back and forth down the back straightaway, and the front straightaway just could not get the handle of this thing. A lot of dirty air back here in this mid-pack could cause that quite a bit. When you come off the corner, the car doesn't want to settle through the bumps at 3 and 4 and even 1 and 2. And the moment you start to get the wake of the draft and the car's on the bottom and the outside when you shoot it 3 wide, it just doesn't feel good. But holy mess. Looking at the scoring pylon at 37, son, I think he tried a little Michael Waltrip jet fuel.
Whatever it is, it's working because he is on the move. And again, look at this outside, just the better place to be, admittedly. And Papineau again used that to make this gap 2.2 seconds and absolutely running away with it is Eric Papineau. Andrew, is this ill-advised though to go this hard?
You got to be wondering with how far he's pulled if these guys are sitting back saving gas or something, because he has rocketed to the front and left them, maybe short field or something, but I know they are on the fuel window, so we might be saving gas back here, but this 37 is just killing the whole field right now.
Running away, but will it prove to be too much for his tires if this run continues? Or again, is this the gamble to not save fuel that maybe the rest of the field is? He continues to average about 0.4 of a second per lap. Faster lap times than everybody else in this group, which at most of these shots you would assume is the battle for the race lead because you can't see the leader. That's how far away Eric Papineau is. Clearly a very different strategy than what's going on behind him in this battle, as we see Agno Phillip going to try to pay it back to Davis. The 94 says, all right, all these moves are happening up top. Let me take a crack at it. He'll try to go to the outside here in turn 2.
There have been a total of 2 seconds that have been walked out by that 37 car in the last 5 laps combined. There was only 0.2 of a second gained by the second pack on Eric Papineau on this latest lap. We'll see what it is again this time by the line. But Phillip now pulling the edge of the race lead and has been saying for the tires trying to run down Papineau, and we'll, I guess, get a good eye of that here. We cross over on the lap number 50 here, and again, the gap started to whittle down, but not nearly as quickly as Papineau walked it back out of. It was only a 1/10 gain for Phillip this last time by. And I think part of that has to do in part with the fact that all these guys in the back here, they cannot for the life of themselves get themselves straightened up in one line and get themselves rolling. Now that's part of the problem with the draft that this track can generate, right? It's a race that really much invites big drafting packs like we see here, especially on this 670 horsepower package, and you can tell the pace of all these guys are suffering in comparison.
Yeah, I want some of the speed that 37's got. I haven't had the luck here at Vegas that he's having right now. I think I was at a 2-second disadvantage on the field. I'm not 100% sure I ever got a close-knit time with any race leaders and even practice sessions. I was just I was off in C Open. It just was not a good time. I refused to run a race. I was that off. I mean, lack of practice, and well, not gonna lie, I'm a little out of racing sorts. I haven't done much in my time. I do the practice laps, but they're starting to yank him back in. It is now starting to come back to 1.7. He's losing 3/4 tenths of a second now that Agnell Phillip has got clear back there on the 94 machine. And hey, you remember Evan Pasoko when I said I'm very impressed with what the 16 of Esteban Rodriguez is doing? Oh yeah, our only winners of the season sit second and third right now. I think those are right now championship 4 material. I'm just kind of curious where my championship pick of Matt Danson's at.
Danson is trickled down to 16th. He started 12th. He made up spots, raced into the top 10, top 5 area, and has dropped back. You can see the A51X Altus Chevrolet running back there in the number 16 spot, and actually behind kind of this main conglomerate of action is, look at that green 40 car, and Nicholas Mara. He is in the middle of a 3-wide sandwich as Jason Staney went to the bottom. The 7, Kyle Trudell, went to the outside. They're all still trying to catch Agnell Phillip, who, by the way, was almost 3 seconds behind Eric Papineau a few laps ago, guys. The gap is now down to less than a second. The 37 has fallen off a cliff.
We knew this was inevitable. He burned all his rubber up way too early the last few laps by. In fact, the last time by, it was again 4 tenths of a second loss. 3 laps ago, it was another 4 tenths of a second. This time by the line, Papineau, he's going to log himself what'll end up being a 31.929, a 31.633. That is another 3/10 loss. Eric Papineau is going to have this field all over him within the next 2 laps here, Terry.
Yeah, and I want to throw over here and ask the question as the battle for the lead is about to heat up. RSR GOAT, tire conservation mode for a lot of these drivers, as you kind of predicted. What goes through your mind is, oh my gosh, the 37th, he's everywhere. Oh, hang on to it. But if you're saving tires, mind you, how much do you kind of back it down? Do you go 3/4 throttle? Do you kind of, how do you save tires here in this next gen car without, scrubbing a whole lot of speed out of it?
Well, I think we just saw there just how much they actually are saving. He pulled, what, 2-3 seconds on the whole field? Just imagine that Agnell Phillip and Matt Danson and Rodriguez can just pull that no problem. I bet you they could pull out as far as they want like that as well. So you really just can't go full throttle. You kind of have to let the car roll into the corner, ease back on the gas. You're probably 3/4 throttle until you get almost to the straightaway. This car is really loose. The setup is really loose, so you really have to save it. And you just saw there how much harder they can go, but they aren't because the tires will just fall off the cliff.
He enjoyed his time up at the front of the field, but Eric Papineau's 15 laps led have gone to the wayside, and he has since been passed by, now make it 23 cars and counting. So we found the limit. Most drivers are going to maybe step over it a little bit. Eric Papineau did a long jump over the limit, and he is paying the price now as he continues to drop like an anchor through the field. And what that does is gives us back a tight top 5. You got the 24 of Davis trying to fend off Kostowicz and Harris, and up front, Esteban Rodriguez. Talked about him in the points. Your Daytona winner has raced his way from 22nd to 2nd, and he has got his eyes set on the race lead. It's your 2 winners in 2023 battling for the lead in Vegas.
See which one of them could go for a third, or will they wipe each other out and we'll have a third different winner of 2023 so far. Phillip and Rodriguez going to be running nose to tail. They've got about a 4/10 gap over the likes of Grant Davis, who still sits back there in third. And all of this excitement throughout the first portions of this race, gentlemen, and we have not even hit halfway. This has just been absolutely thrilling so far. Imagine what the second half is going to look like as the aggression will continue to get higher and higher towards the end of this race. You can see the fights on for third in the background as Phillip Rodriguez remain about 2/4 of a second separated down to turn number 3. I can tell you right now, this is going to be one race where I have a feeling we are going to be in for a barn burner of a finish.
Yeah, and Kostowitz back there in that 09 looking underneath Grant Davis for the P3 position with Cody Harrison, the 28, right behind him. This has been a really consistent run. I know last week we said we didn't have to learn his name. We didn't really have to talk about him too much. But Kostowitz is doing a good job. Up here having a very strong run. And Evan, the class of drivers that came from the Winter Series up to the Cup Series this year, the new names and the new faces and new places, they've really come out and shined early. The 16, the 09. It's good to see people like Shaw coming in here. Bergoli's having really good runs. This is probably one of the most talented fields we've seen, and we had Kevin King in the field last season, for goodness sakes, and quite a bit of people who was doing Road to Pro trying to make it to Coke.
And I think as well, you lose some of those big names, and it allows the opportunity for the guys who were fighting for 10th to 15th to fight for 5th through 10th, right? I think it gives them an opportunity to shine and to see this new blend of new faces towards the front of the field. I think that's what we're seeing now, is we are almost at halfway home in this Las Vegas 200. The 33 pushing up, and it squeezes Gregory Shaw just a little bit. The 66 keeps his foot in it. He's trying to stay ahead of the 5 of Tice, the 99 of Cobb, the 13 of Miller. Miller may just be one of your biggest movers in the field. He is plus 23 on the afternoon.
And Miller plus 23. Formerly the driver that had the most spots was actually the likes of Eric Papineau, our former race leader. He is since now only +1, having fallen from grace from first all the way down to 26th spot on the boards. But even Miller still sits outside of the top 10. You want to talk a driver that's made up a lot of spots and he's in a good points paid position. How about Esteban Rodriguez? Plus 20 for him, only 3 less than Miller, but he's currently runner-up to Agnell Phillip. Will continue to keep things rolling through here. Now, at this point, strategy is going to be starting to become a big talking point at this point, right? Like, and I'm going to throw this one to you here, Andrew. Usually, this is around the time we start to see some drivers coming down to pit, but we've already seen a few drivers that have had some pit stops already on the course of this race. In fact, most of the field's already had a stop or two, and, well, never mind. Strategy's out the window. Caution's out.
Somebody is backwards up against the outside wall. It is Eric Papineau from the penthouse to the outhouse for the 37 Chevrolet. And again, we knew something was up, and we really saw him struggle. And let's see, was this going to be on his own, or was there some help? Because that race car was not acting nice, and just middle of the corner, sideways, and it snaps once he gets onto the apron. But we were talking, was it fuel saving or was it tire wear? And I think that answers it pretty clearly, Andrew. And we saw it when he was falling through the field. He just absolutely ate that car alive, and there was nothing left.
Yep, and I think this is something to remember later in this race. If we get short runs, that these guys can go a lot faster than they currently are. And the tires just wore on that car. I think we were kind of expecting that when he got out. But, man, when he was out front by 3 seconds, he was looking like Superman. We were wondering what kind of fuel he took or what strategy, but I guess that answers that question. So as they come into pit here.
He claims responsibility for the accident. He'll get the end of the longest line. A penalty. Race leaders in. They all took 4 last time. Expecting a lot of the same, as it is almost every single race car.
A lot of drivers going to be down in for pit road. Are going to keep one eye on the 98 car. See how Jimmy Richmond fares. He took a pretty hefty whack to the outside wall trying to avoid Miller, and actually avoid Papineau, excuse me, wrecked after the fact. Think he should be fine, but could be problem for the Bucky's Chevrolet. We'll keep eyes on pit road overall. You can already see some drivers leaving their box. Here comes Agnell Phillip, and Phillip going to try to take up the race lead. Esteban Rodriguez is going to win second off pit road. Kostowitz picks up third. Harris fourth. Thomas George fifth for the top 5 off of pit lane.
Just listening into some of the driver radio chatter there, and sounds like there was some close calls actually on pit road. When you're to the left-hand side of the pit lane, you're able to get it out unobstructed. You can go through other race cars. That can't happen on the right-hand side of the pit road. So sounds like somebody may have gotten somebody's way or missed a pit stall or whatnot, but no major effect on your top runners. And Well, we were just talking about where'd Matt Danson go. All of a sudden, Nolan, he's back in P6 after falling out of the top 10 no more than, what, 10, 15 laps ago?
That's a good run for Matt Danson to put himself back up there into the top 10. Just one shy of the top 5. He'll start third outside line. So good run for Matt Danton so far. Agnell Phillip picks up the race lead once again, trying to go for, yes, it would be back-to-back wins, as we had seen, of course, the Pure Sims Mustang take the win at Daytona to start our season off. Lights remain on aboard the safety car due to drivers being obviously laps down, as got a few guys still trying to come on down and in for service. I'm noticing Esteban Rodriguez fairly slow out there on the racetrack. Potential penalty, maybe net of the longest line for the 16 car.
Slow on the front straightaway. Could it be a penalty for Rodriguez, who we were just talking about how well he had been running?
Oh, it is. He sped in pit road 60 miles an hour when it's 50.
And if it's, yeah, that's going to be tough for him. He's got the speed to be able to make it up, but I mean, halfway through the race, Andrew, that's kind of when you want to start taking your steps forward. It is a huge blow to go all the way to the back, because now he's going to feel rushed to make that time back up. And it's a tough break for a guy who was having a good night. We were just talking about him.
Yeah, and your winner from Daytona, and I mean, he's proven the last 2 weeks that it's not a fluke. This guy has a lot of speed, and he was running second there. Definitely not a lot of time to do it. You've seen that people can pass on the outside, but he's going to have to save his tires while moving forward. Not an easy thing to do. So I think the best thing that he could look for is, you know, go hard, pass as many cars as he can and hope for a caution early, or try to save your stuff and hope it goes long. You don't want to get caught in that middle part where you're saving tires and you just kind of stay where you are, and then we come in and pit again where you're just going to kind of be stuck there.
So lights go out on top of the pace car. The end of the longest line to penalty is assessed to Eric Papineau. There's also a wave around given to Sam Nieto, who I believe will be able to rejoin the lead lap. That'll give us 38 cars on the lead lap. Last time we checked in, it was only Landon Mills and Brett Pancari who had gone to the garage. Since then, Mike Kaczynski and Nicholas Renner have joined him. Jeremy Richmond is one lap down in the Buc-ee's Chevrolet, and then Sam Nieto getting in the wave by will rejoin the lead lap in the number 38 position. 64 laps to go, past halfway home. Let's see how many drivers took note of the entire Eric Papineau saga. Do you drive it aggressive early? You're not going to have anything left after 15 laps, so there's more in the tank, but this is within the fuel window, but a long run to the end. We have not seen a 65-lap green flag run tonight, so it's unlikely that this is the final restart of the night, but there's only one way to find out. Pace car gonna get out of the way. Phillip goes early on the bottom. Green flag back in the air.
Phillip with a solid launch out for this field, pulls out about 4 car lengths over Cody Harris. Spencer Kostowitz on the outside line, gonna try to tuck in for the 3rd spot here. He'll get in between Harris and Thomas George. You can see Harris still taking a slightly more defensive line to keep Kostowitz from getting too antsy. And just like that, the bumper given to Agnell Phillip as we dive it down into turn number 3. Harris gonna push out off of 4 and try to hound down the 851 Pro Chevrolet for the race lead.
And here comes Danson, aggressive on the outside of the racetrack. He was 4th at the start finish. He is the leader down the back.
The Logitech G Ultimas Esports Chevy out in front as a whole host of drivers having some problems. Harris going to pull clear off of turn number 4 to go and pick up the 2nd position. Meanwhile, we've got Jeremy Richmond back down and into pit road. He was already laps down, effectively now out of the race here tonight. Harris pulling the rubber net outside line, trying to get the run and wind him a punch down the Noah straightaway. Closing in, it's down to 0.08 of a second, but it's not close enough to send the move up the inside of 3. And now it's going to be Kostowitz trying to look for the inside line. Is Kostowitz going to try to make the move for second? How about Gregory Shaw pulling the top shelf as he's going to go 2 for 2, picks up third, and then picks up second. Now he's going to try to go 3 for 3 on lap number 74 to the inside of Danson. Entering turn numbers 3 and 4, and he is through. Gregory Shaw to the race lead, but Andrew, is this going to be too soon? Is Shaw making the same mistake we just saw Papineau make earlier in this race?
Well, they cannot make this on fuel. They're going to have to stop again with about 33 to go. So you can definitely push harder than you were before, but I still think that 66 is going a little too hard. The tires are going to wear. If I'm in his spot, I'm backing it down a little bit, save just a little bit more tires, and then go with, like, I don't know, 10, 20 laps left on this fuel run.
And look at the speed on the outside of the racetrack as, again, it is the all-out blitz. This time, David Kolb, who has rocketed up to the number 4 spot. He wants to take the risk now. And again, with drivers likely wanting to split the end of this in half, some drivers feel like, listen, we're going to wreck. If I can maybe get a good 20 laps out of this and catch a yellow, now's my opportunity to make up some spots. So Kolb stops in 4th. Staney behind. 99 going to go back to the outside. A little bit harder to make that headway down at this end of the racetrack in turns 3 and 4. Watch for the 99 to try to go up top in 1 and 2.
He'll try to make that look up the top shelf 1 and 2. And sure enough, there it is. David Kolb with the huge charge. The inside stacks up. And he pulls around Phillip, pulls around Harris, pulls around Kostowitz, picking up the 3rd position as he tucks in line right behind Matt Danson now for 3rd. The outside line in 1 and 2 seems so much more overpowered compared to in 3 and 4. You have to wonder, is it the extra speeds that you get coming on down off of turn number 4 that helps it? Because remember, you're hitting only about 180, 182 down the back straightaway. You're up to 188 at some points down to the turn 1.
Danson slides up off of 2 to protect the number 2 spot, slicing to the inside on row 2 there. That was Kostowitz again, 3 wide with Phillip in the middle. The 79 William Schmidt to the very outside. Closer to the front of the field, it's Cody Harris, side by side on Gregory Shaw. The 28 Chevy, just shy of leading at the start finish, that time by 1/100th of a second, but he's got the high ground, and off a turn 2, keeping his foot in it. New race leader, it's the 28 of Harris. Look at the move by Schmidt, though. Very outside to the very inside. He bangs doors with the 66. It is out of control in the battle for the lead.
Absolutely zero chill at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, as it so often is with the RealSimRacing Full Throttle Cup Series. This race right here, after we saw such a race that you mentioned before left something to be desired just this past weekend of the Real World Cup Series, this proves right here why RSR is the series to tune into every single Monday night. This right here is proving why these guys are some of the best on the iRacing service. They can make just about any racetrack an absolute entertaining show to watch. Harris continues to log the laps away. 54 laps to go as the top 4 breaking away. Shaw trying to make the move back for the race lead.
Trying to challenge back. He goes back to the handy-dandy outside lane as Cody Harris going to try to play defense on the bottom. But again, from down there, there's just not much you can do. And back to the race lead goes Gregory Shaw. Andrew, I don't know about you. I don't think they're heeding the words of warning of maybe not burning up their stuff. Does the fact that they have to cut this run in half, and realistically this is a shorter run than a full fuel stint mean that they can be more aggressive? Is that the logic, or is it just kind of the red mist? One guy is doing it, so I'm going to do it too.
It's definitely, you can go a lot harder. 33 laps, you're probably going to struggle those last 13 to 10 laps on these tires, but remember, they got to get by you, so people saving, like I think Agnell Phillip is, he's still got to pass the 4 cars in front of him, and even if they're slipping and sliding, that's a lot of spots to make up within 10 laps. So these guys are really pushing, and I think Papineau really showed that you can go. I think a lot of guys kind of took note of that, and they're saying, you know what, I want to lead laps too. And I mean, look at, I believe that Schmidt there, on the, sorry, that's Castro on the outside about to take the lead. He's just freaking going for it.
3 wide again. Agnell Phillip, one of the more veteran drivers amongst the group, going 3 wide again. Here comes the 6 of Thomas George as well, trying to follow Sean Casto to the race lead. Now it's the 52 on front in Vegas.
Sean Casto pulls through to take the race lead. Shaw under fire by the Series XM Mustang of George up top. George gonna bobble though. Up to the top shelf. Give the run to Gregory Shaw down the Nellis straightaway. Shaw is gonna hold on to the second position. We're gonna go a little bit of 3 wide, thinking about it in the background, but Ryan Dunkelberger gonna lose the momentum as William Schmidt pulling the top side to get around the likes of Thomas George. We're focusing on everything going on up front here because this is where all the action's at. Every time we think about cutting away, something else develops up here in front. There's just nowhere where we can look else except up here in the fights with the race lead, which is seemingly swapping around every other lap like we're at a plate track here.
One of the things I used to enjoy doing here on the service is a lot of the open wheel racing here on the oval side at Las Vegas. And man, does it remind me a lot of that, because there are comers and goers every single lap. If you want it, you can go and take it. 50, now 49 laps to go in this Las Vegas 200. Sean Casto wanting to be the guy in front when things finally settle down. He tries to control from the front of the field. Gregory Shaw tucked in line second. Schmidt, George side by side, third and fourth. How about the 18 machine at Dunkelberger? His boosted Toyota's there. Looking a little loosey-goosey off of turn 4, but stays in line. Somebody's throwing it to the apron back there in the mid-teens. Every other run, when drivers were thinking long game, we saw it spread out pretty quick, at least in the top 5, top 10, not in this late race dash. I'm not sure how sustainable this is, but Gregory Shaw goes to the outside of Casto, and he's going to have to go way to the outside wall in 3 and 4. The outside not as effective at this end of the racetrack as it is in 1 and 2, but Shaw still gets the job done.
Casto will fall back to second, but it's not over yet. He has not been stuck with the outside line. And how's this? Casto with a Hail Mary down the inside of 1. Shaw, though, going to go right up to the top shelf, and he'll pull clear with the race lead. I think that might do it for Casto, as now Schmidt's going around the outside. Phil is going to make it 3 wide on the inside of George, and Dunkelberger will split the 6 down the middle into turn number 3. What an intense race we're starting to have here, and it's only going to continue to ramp up the further we get into this race. We're not even going to have a voice left to interview these guys when we get to the checkered flag.
Going to be running on steam as we see the battle continue, and it is never ending. And these guys are ripping on the fence. Saw a little bit of that this weekend, most of it unsuccessful, but it appears to be working here. And now Casto doesn't have either of the preferred lanes because he's in the middle of sustained 3 wide. Schmidt up top, but contrary to what everybody else has been doing, Agnell Phillip is back to second, almost all of his headway on the bottom line.
So far, the lines really seem to be coming in for the top shelf. That inside line does not look like it's got any kind of momentum behind it anymore. It's almost reminiscent of how good the outside line is at the Kansas Speedway at this point, with how good you can get a run around the outside of 1 and 2. The only difference, the inside lane is still mildly viable when you get down and around to turn numbers 3 and 4, and that is what's keeping this pack very tight together. That progressive bang that you mentioned at the top of the broadcast, Evan, I think that's exactly what we're seeing come into play here. It's a combination of being rubbered in and the fact that you can get so much more of a run from the top side of the racetrack, and Shaw going to continue to gradually log laps. Phillips second, Casto third, side by side for 4th on back, but it's not going to last that way for too long. It's only going to be a matter of time before we're side by side for the lead once more.
Clock's ticking, as maybe, just maybe, a small opportunity for these drivers to, I don't know, take a deep breath and not put somebody 3 wide for the first time since we restarted that last trip down to pit road. We talk about the length of the runs here. It's been 24 laps since we pitted, 42 laps to go, nearing the midway point of this last second dash, and Here's Phillip sticking to his guns. To the inside for the lead. They are 3 wide. For third, on back, almost 4 wide now. Nose to nose at the stripe. Phillip leads on the bottom. It's his 28th lap led of the night. If he can lead one more, he'll tie Grant Davis's 29 for the most laps led of the race. Driver who does that will secure an extra bonus point this afternoon.
I think it says a thing or two when we get down to laps 93 and 94 and the most laps led is still sitting at underneath 30. I think that tells you just how much this lead is swapped around through the course of the race all night long, but it's crucial to note it has been swapped around between everybody. It's been swapped around between the same 2 or 3 drivers, and now Papineau Phillip did not lead the last lap by. Did lead the last lap by the line. So Papineau Phillip going to take the most laps led as of right now. As contact behind, going to force Dunkelberger up, and the whole field going to scramble to get around him.
They scatter in the midfield, and look out, the 52 of Castro is getting run over, past high, past low. Some nice moves by Jason Staney. The bright green 40 of Nick Mara trying to get back into the top 10. Up front, Phillip has indeed led those 2 extra laps. He's now led more laps than anybody else in this race, but don't tell that to Gregory Shaw, the 66th to Get Wet Sports Chevy. Trying to get his car back up front. He got loose there, and he's going to lose a ton of time with 39 to go.
Papineau Phillip going to try to take the low line here as he's now starting to walk out of gap. We're going to go 3 wide for a second. Shaw's going to get split by Danson and Kostowitz from inside to outside. And I think now we're starting to see the tires starting to play into effect here, just like Andrew was saying a little bit ago about when is it going to be long where he saw tires starting to come into play. And that's what we're starting to see here as these guys are going to continue to hightail it around the high banks of the Las Vegas Motor Speedway here in Nevada. And it's going to be still a good run for these guys. We've got less than 40 laps left to go. We are going to be 4 laps away, 3.5 on the back straightaway from crossing over into the triple digits on the lap counter.
Not that the first half of this race was overtly tame. We had plenty of drivers making big moves, gaining 15, 20 spots from their grid positions, but man, has this thing been thrown into a blender. Most of that after Eric Papineau made his aggressive charge to the front and dropped off. It seemed to have inspired so many other drivers to let their hair down and go for it. And now for the first time since we restarted this race more than 30 laps ago, your top 5 all single file at one time. Doesn't mean that we're taking it easy. Gregory Shaw, who was just fighting for the race lead, struggling back in traffic. The 33 machine alongside with him as Shaw's going to find himself trickling down to 10th position. The 99 of David Kolb had some peaks up front. He's back down here as well.
The field continues to cycle through as, trouble for Nicholas Mara, slow on the bottom of the number 40 car. He's dropped down 7 positions, and he is all over the racetrack in 3 and 4, going to get himself sorted. What's happened to the 40 car here is he was 17th at the top of this lap. Now he finds himself running all the way back in 30th, so he's lost 13 spots that one lap alone. And as our analyst here, Friedage, has just correctly pointed out, only going to be about 3 laps now until we get halfway through this stint. I think this has got to be one of the longest green flag runs we've so far seen all day.
And I'll tell you what, these tires have really come in. You saw Agnell saved, I think Matt Danton saved a lot, but they're going to be pitting in the next few laps here. Look for some guys to go a little further, maybe 1-2 laps past, because that 94 has been strong out front. You're going to need that little bit extra on tires to pass him is what it really looks like.
Grant Davis says over the radio the number 24 machine will be coming down pit road from a 13th spot. He was your pole sitter. He was the driver who had led the most laps in this race until We saw that overtaken by Agata Phillip on this run. The 24 does not come down pit road, but in front of him, Gregory Schall does. Schall almost missed the pit lane, but I think he locked it up just in time to get it slowed down, and that's going to be through the box. Schall going to give up a little bit of time with that mistake.
One driver, though, that did not slow down in time, Sam Nieto, who's got a penalty and a caution on the racetrack. And that's going to change everything. That might have just saved Nieto's race, as he had a black flag for speeding on pit entry. Alexander Light has binned it on the back straightaway.
And he has immediately claimed responsibility for the incident. That would likely suggest it was a single car spin. Let's see what the replay says. Off of lap 102, that is a hard hit to the outside wall. Let's wind it back further. Looked like it was probably loose on his own. Let's watch. Back end's going. It's going. And then when it hits the transition point between the banking and the apron, he really loses it.
I think that's all on the tires that these guys have been having to work with. Sam Nieto has gone laps down, so maybe not the saving grace he was hoping for. And in fact, he is down several. Looking to be down 3 laps total now for Nieto, as he is going to be in a bad way following that pit stop. And here comes the field. This is going to get interesting here now to see, will we see anybody staying out, or is everybody going to be coming on down and in for service? So far, it is everybody. Perhaps not so much of a surprise back here.
They would have been coming down pit road anyways, so this just, I think, kind of normalizes all of it, Andrew.
Yep, pretty plain and simple. You're going to come in, take 4 tires, and then you're going. I don't see these guys saving tires anymore. All that excitement that we just had, ramp it up 10, and it's going to be a fun show up here.
Look for the 4-tire decision, and then who wins the race off of pit road. If Phillip was in first, Hansen gets close, but not close enough. And Agnew Phillip will defend the #1 position off of pit road. Danson second, Kostowicz, Bowie, George, your top 5, and this will tee things up nicely for a less than 30 lap to go run to the end of this race.
Holy Toledo, what a race we've had so far here tonight. I think we can finally take a bit of a breather, but it's the calm before the storm, right? I mean, all that aggression, all that tension that we have been seeing, that was all coming on down before we even got to the last quarter of the race. Now that we are in the last quarter of the race, and now that everybody's on the same pit strategy and good to go to the end, what's going to happen from here? There is no strategy. There is no more saving. How, at this point, do you handle the late race aggression? If you're guys like Phillip that are going to be leading this race, you're going to find yourselves with a fairly good run and just be able to try to take it easy. If you're guys further in the background, especially guys like Eric Stanford, who are going to be trying to work their way through, and Grant Davis sitting outside the top 10, he was the pole sitter today. How aggressive you're going to want to be here to get back to the front?
Light still on pit road for damage repairs. Mike Kuczynski's been down there for quite some time, and again, a single car accident means that nobody else really gets torn up. The decision was easy to go for 4 tires, and now the question is, if we thought that first, or I guess I should say that most recent run was dumb, I don't know what we're about to see. I'm a little bit scared. I mean, we know with these cars that, you know, this isn't in Atlanta. This isn't, you know, certainly Fontana or Michigan, but I think I necessarily wasn't expecting this much aggression and this ability for cars to just flip a switch, Andrew. I don't know if it was this something that drivers were expecting to see, or they kind of learning on the fly.
It's just this racetrack. It opens it up. You have to save tires, and you see how slow they have to go in order to do that. You really have to be easy with the throttle. I think all that's off the door now. You're going to give it 110%. Chances are we're going to get a few cautions, so I don't think tires are going to matter as much. And you got to go now. Small note, I think the 66 got a commitment line there, or he may have lined up out front of everybody, because he came in, took 4 tires, but he sat on pit road for extended time. He probably would have came out with the lead, so a big mistake there that kind of cost him.
mistakes have been a story of the trips down to pit road tonight. Of course, the unfortunate timing of the yellow as it relates to Gregory Schall's trip to pit road means that he is the very last car on the lead lap who had to stay out to get a wave around. He is going to go from fighting inside of the top 10 to 36th on the racetrack, all the way at the back. Other notable names who we've talked about tonight: Grant Davis, he's down in 12th position. Eric Papineau led a bunch of laps. He's down in 29th position. So a lot of those drivers who have had moments up in the front of the field, opportunities seemingly to win this race down in the midfield, and it leaves the driver who has led more laps than anybody else tonight, the number 94 Chevrolet of Papineau Phillip, up front, trying to close out another one. He's already got a race win. It was just 1 week ago at the Auto Club Speedway. Can the defending Cup Series champion secure a second win in uncertainty into the playoff grid? If he can get the job done right here and right now. Pace cars off, green flag in the air, 28 laps to go in Vegas.
.28 to go, and it's once again the giant launch from Phillip. But as we've seen time and time again, it's going to be a gap that's going to close down in a big hurry. Kostowitz and Danson fighting it out side by side for second place in the run down to turn numbers 3 and 4. Still 3/10 separate in Phillip, as they were not able to get themselves single file out to charge after the A51 Pro Chevrolet. Kostowitz running the outside, Danson on the bottom. Bowie going to give a bit of a shot to the back bumper in the Williams Automotive Repair Camry to help that 38 car push through to help fight for the lead.
Kostowitz has been up here a lot tonight, but he has not had an opportunity to lead a lap so far. He'll try to pinch down a little bit. Car bobbles. That's going to open it up enough to give the door to Danson. Danson's clear for second. Kostowitz will squeeze between him and Brandon Bowie as the top 4 try to run away here late in this race. 5th position on back. Cody Harris up top, and look at that outside fan out 3 wide behind your leaders.
Danson and Phillip going to try to hightail it down the road into turn numbers 3 and 4, while Phillip maintains the strong lead he's been having so far. He has now led the most laps out of anybody tonight. Danson trying to see if he can lead a few, though. You only need to lead the last few, and that's what Danson's going to be aiming for, as we have 25 laps to go, but still with this Phillip to be more than clear for the race lead out in front.
Cody Harris, I think, trying to take the role of instigator on this most recent restart. He is clear of Brandon Bowie and bringing the 7 of Kyle Trudell with him. Now he'll go down to the bottom. Kostowitz in 3rd, looks up top again on Danson. Nothing quite there yet, but Danson trying to follow the draft of Phillip, going to allow Kostowitz to pull alongside. Harris side steps to the bottom. It's Trudell and Bowie side by side for 5th, but so far nobody able to touch Phillip off the restart.
Cody Harris giving the bumper to Matt Danson in the run down to turn number 1, trying to shove him clear down to the turn numbers 1 and 2. But Kostowitz gonna make the move up on the top side. The run around the outside is just too much for that inside to contend with, coming around the turn numbers 1 and 2. But at the moment, the only thing stopping Kostowitz from pulling clear is 3 and 4. That's where he has vaulted so far from the outside line. But now finally gets clear, and now we can try to really chase down Papineau Phillip. This is where it's gonna get interesting here. The laps continue to wind down. We go double file, about 5-6 rows deep in the run down to turn number 1. Kyle Trudell a bit further on the racetrack. Brandon Bowie trying to find the middle, but he's going to end up backing out.
Maybe the smarter play as we get closer and closer now with only 22 laps to go. Can't really afford any more mistakes. I wonder if it makes these drivers think a little bit harder about the consequences of their moves to see, is it worth it? Because if I make a mistake and I get into the wall or drop a couple of spots, not going to have enough time to make it up. There are a lot of points on the line in the first intermediate race of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series season. Single file 1 through 7. Kostowicz closes on the bumper of Phillip as they continue to battle 3 wide behind. Can the 09 make a move for the race lead?
Agnell Phillip going to continue to keep a good run up here in the front of this race. Kostowicz to the inside, 20 to go, and Kostowicz making the move for the race lead, and he leads on his first lap tonight in the Sim Lab Mustang. No, he can. Up to the top side goes Agnell Phillip, going to a pole clear. Matt Danson running down the turn numbers 3 and 4, trying to chase after Kostowicz. Phillip continues to hang on, trying to go back to back. But he's got, again, a whole field of stock cars looking to charge after him in the background. As we enter within 20 laps to go, pressure is certainly on, and this field is not about to let Phillip breathe for even a moment.
And now that Kostowicz took his swing, here comes Danson on the counter punch. He goes down to the bottom and does the battle for P2, leave an opening for Agnell Phillip to run away with the lead. Danson can't make headway. The 23 Abui will try to aid, and they're going to bump draft down the front stretch this time. And courtesy of that push, Danson going to get a nose in front of Spencer Kostowicz, but for how good the top has been as the moving lane tonight, Danson can't do it on the bottom and is forced to tuck in line.
Fanning now down the Nella straightaway, almost went 3 wide, down to the turn numbers 3 and 4. We'll keep it steady as the field now starting to break away. There's now a bit of a break from about Jeremy Miller on back. That's about the, I believe that'll be about the 7th place driver back to 8th at the moment, where Thomas George remained side by side with Jason Staney. The top 7 single filed it out, and then it's going to be 9th on back now, where they really start to double file it out and fan out down the back straightaway. And this already you can see within that half a lap, that gap that Miller had pulled out of Thomas George, that is how much you can gap out if you're running single file in a grouping compared to if you're running double file fighting everybody around you.
"16 laps to go on the scoring pylon of Phillip. Has led more laps consecutively right now since Grant Davis at the very, very start of this race led double-digit consecutive laps. This entire run, Andrew, just looks so different than the last. What is the cause of that?
I don't think anybody's saving tires. That exception might be Matt Danson and Cody Harris and Brandon Bowie there. I think Kostowicz is pushing Phillip as hard as he can go, and Agnell is driving as hard as he can right there. So we'll see if that 34, the 38, the 23, maybe they have something. Maybe they're saving a little bit in their bag, but everybody's going as hard as they can, and you're really seeing how fast these guys can actually drive this car with no one really saving.
It is full throttle action, appropriately so, in the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. Schmidt side by side, back in the pack, but up front, Kostowicz gonna try it again on the inside of Agnell Phillip. A pretty good run that time off of turn 2 to stick with the quarter panel, and he will put himself door to door with the race leader in 3 and 4. But much like when Danson tried to pass him on the bottom, he is struggling to pass Phillip on the inside.
Yeah, the inside lane, it doesn't have momentum anymore. Not when you're this far up to speed. Kostowicz is going to keep trying it, but look at the drive that Phillip can get around the outside lane. Oh, but Phillip bobbles up the racetrack, almost into the wall. Kostowicz hangs on, and he'll take up the race lead now, down to 3 and 4, as Phillip, with a big mistake, almost throws away the lead. He'll fight it back, though, into turn numbers 3 and 4.
And Phillip was completely caught off guard by that bumble. Came over the radio and said, what the heck? He had no idea why the race car did that to him. And honestly, for how sideways the 94 was, Pretty impressive that he didn't lose the race lead. Heck, drop out of the top 5 entirely. The 94 is still sideways off at 2. Everybody pushing hard, saving nothing, means that these race cars are going to start to skate as they get on to now 20 lap old tires. It's the same point in previous runs where drivers who pushed really started to struggle. So you're going to see the rear end of these race cars move around a lot more. Agnell Phillip was close, but it was Kostowicz at the lead at the start-finish line. It's the first lap led of the night for the 09, and Phillip still can't sit the race car down. New race leader, it's Spencer Kostowicz.
Spencer Kostowicz tried, and it finally pays off. He pulls through to the race lead. 10 laps left to go. Does the 09 have what it takes to hang on and be our third different winner of 2023 in the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series? I mentioned it before, you only have to lead a few laps, and it's those last few. Kostowicz is ready to lead every last one of these final 10. Phillip still scrambling to chase after the car. One other car scrambled the bottom. That was Trudell. George went with them. Everybody's struggling to hang on to these cars as these tires are absolutely demolished.
Spencer Kostowicz competing in only a third career Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series race, had a DNF as a waitlisted then late season entry driver last year in 2022, and then last week at Auto Club at his first point start where the race car was run into the end of it, finished in 14th spot. So it is the two-time race starter Spencer Kostowicz going head-to-head with Agnell Phillip, a 6-time race winner and a Cup Series champion from 2022. Bowie's right there. Harris is there. Danson, Miller, all within 1 second of the 09 Ford, who's got a target on his back.
Up the racetrack, one Camry jumps out down low. Harris trying to make the move. Oh, Bowie blocks for third down the back straightaway. Still, it is going to be Phillip trying to make the move on Kostowicz, but the lap times are absolutely just running away. Contact, look out! Bowie slides into the infield grass, hopping across the access roads and across the Legends Oval. Can he hang on? Yes, he will. No yellow flag, we stay green, and he'll just manage to get himself sorted. That's race hopes over for a win, though, for the number 33.
It was a great piece of driving, though. He slid up in front of Harris, and Harris did not lift, and it sent Bowie through the grass. He deserves a hats off for hanging on to that race car, because we can stay green, and the battle for this race win can roll on. 6 laps to go. Maybe it's down to these 3 or 4. Spencer Kostowicz leads. Agnell Phillip second. Cody Harris third. Matt Danson fourth, and then things break up from there around the scare by Bowie.
Kostowicz is now pulled out just over 0.2 of a second with the race lead, almost 1/4 of a second. Phillip has nothing left with these tires. Cody Harris trying to make the move around the outside line, going for second place. A look of fierce concentration. He cleared for second spot. Now, what can Cody Harris do to try to see if he can hightail after Kostowicz with 5 to go?
And now as Spencer Kostowicz, you can only stop and think, what's next? Who's going to bin it for 98th place? That's going to take this one away from me. And oh yeah, Harris, was he saving? He's been in the battle, but he was not the aggressor. Has the 28 held on to just enough to put himself in victory lane tonight? He is coming quick with 4 to go.
Cody Harris running them down. This fight's not over yet. Kostowicz is nowhere near out of the woods. Thought he might have had it when he pulled the gap out to 0.3 of a second, but Harris has reeled it in to 1/10.5, coming to 3 to go. That 28 car has got the pace to go for a race win. He's just got to pick where he wants to make this run and set it up. He's got 4.5 miles left to do so for the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. If it's coming from anywhere, it's going to have to be out of turn number 2. Down the back straightaway, yellow flag in the air. It's overtime.
The yellow flag is out, and it is Joseph Tice up against the outside wall going into turn number 1. And much like yesterday afternoon's NASCAR Cup Series race, a late yellow will send this one to overtime. And it is Newen Flores claiming responsibility for the incident. He's in a battle here. 3 cars to look at. The 99 of David Kolb, the 5 of Tice, the 88 of Flores. The 88 says it was his fault. Let's see what happened off of 4.
Tice pushing up. Whoa, right there. Kolb got a bit loose, and then there was the 88 car hooks into the 5, and that is a hefty shot into the outside wall. But the good news for Tice, it was a square hit to the front end, so he was able to drive that car away. Hopefully doesn't have too much damage on the 5 car, but I wouldn't keep my hopes up about that one.
Yeah, unfortunately, a pretty good hit there, and I can't tell if this yellow's good or bad for Kostowicz, man. I mean, Harris was closing. It certainly looked like Cody Harris was going to have a chance, but I don't know. Kostowicz may have rather been fighting off 1 car instead of 10, because these tires are gone. So they are all coming back down to pit road. They're going to get tires, and here's a money stop where you can't afford a single mistake.
Kostowicz leads them down. If he wants to maintain the shot of going for the race lead, he's got to keep that lead coming on out of pit road. We've seen how critical the restarts can be as they'll be up on the jack. It was a good entry for Kostowicz. Agno Phillip right in front of him, trying to see who will get out first. Kostowicz leads the box. Phillip takes 2 tires. Phillip takes 2 tires. Harris, I don't think, took any. As Cody Harris leaves pit road, Harris takes the left sides only. Phillip takes the right sides only. And they're going to be 1-2 out of pit road. Kostowicz is down to 4th.
And add branded Bowie into the mix as well. Bowie goes for 2 left side tires. They lead the race off of pit road. Matt Danson goes for 4 tires. He'll be off 4th. Major goes for 2. He'll be off 5th. And as he slows on the back straightaway, is that a speeding penalty for Spencer Kostowicz, which will take him out of the battle for the race win?
Oh, no. You're kidding me. He was having the best of runs, too. Trying to see where it was that this penalty came from. Speed limit is 50 miles an hour. Oh, he jumped up to 60, trying to beat other drivers like Danson out of the box. You cannot do that. He was nowhere near the pit exit cone. I think he thought it was further along than it was. Usually, the green cone, as it was the end of pit road, it's right after that first stall, right? But not in Las Vegas. It's so far after, but even if it happened right there, he still would have been slapped with a penalty.
Well, I said when they came down to pit road, Andrew, that this is the money stop. You can't afford a mistake. And unfortunately there for Spencer, he's got nobody to blame but himself.
Not at all. It's just kind of what happens. Race car drivers will always race. It doesn't matter if it's off a pit road or on the racetrack. And you see a guy to your right or left, you want to beat him out. You try to get that little bit, and it just big mistake, and that cost him. You got to feel for him because he was right there, 3 to go, leading the race. Cody Harris was closing, but man, that was going to be a 1st or 2nd for him, and now all the way to the back. It's just got to feel for him. He had a really good run going.
It's a tough break there, but there are many drivers here who have now gone for the 2-tire call. Again, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd on 2 tires. 5th and 6th are on 2 tires. That's about it. Burke took 2 back in 20th, but is the 2 going to be enough on such a short run to be able to fend off 4 tires?
You have to wonder if that is enough. Dancing there on 4 tires, he's looking pretty, but we saw last year in the championship race, 2 tires works for a few laps, so the car is really loose this week. I don't know if it's going to work here, but definitely worth the shot, especially Agnell. He's got that win in the bag. Harris was right there, so it's worth the chance. See if you can't get the W and get yourself in the playoffs.
And the lights go out on top of the iRacing first pace car. We will go to RealSimRacing overtime. Let's talk through the rules. This is attempt number 1 of 3 at a green-white checker finish. When we come around, we will take 2 laps to go If the white flag is taken, this race will end no matter what. If there is a yellow before the white flag, then the race will stop and be restarted, and it will go to another try. Again, up to, but no more than 3 attempts to finish this race with these Real Sim Racing overtime rules. Let's talk through the running order. Remember, your front row, 2 tire calls for Cody Harris, the control car on the bottom, and Agno Phillip up on the outside. It's a mixed bag on row 2. P3, Brandon Bowie took 2 to the outside. P4, Matt Danson on 4. Then it's 2 tires apiece for row 3. Madansi Major 5th, Sean Casto in 6th, and 4 tires for everybody else on back. Miller, Schmidt, Bergoli, Lariah. The car's inside the top 10. Pace car down and in. 2 laps to go in Las Vegas. Green flag back in the air.
A shot from the back bumper from Bowie to Harris as Harris tries to pull himself clear. Phillip jumps to the bottom to try to hang on to 3rd. Harris on the 2 left side strategies. Harris on the 2 rights. Brandon Bowie trying to see if he can split around both of them to go for the race lead. Phillip making the move for 2nd place. They're both closing in on Cody Harris. Will come around turn numbers 3 and 4. Try to take the white flag. We will not get there. We'll pile them up in turn number 3.
Yellow flag is out, and backwards on track is David Kolb in the number 99 Ford Mustang. It all went wrong, and I think that might have been a long wreck that stemmed back to the middle of the back straightaway. Look at off of 2. They're already all over the place, and hard to tell what happened. The 99 was kind of bouncing off cars there.
It looked like the 18 might have gotten up and into the outside wall, and that kind of stacked up Kolb, who ended up just kind of being the sandwich in the mix. We'll get a look at this here. Oh, they both got to the outside wall. Then, yeah, the 99 just ping-ponged back and forth. Got into the 95 there, Bradley Burke, and well, it was just on from there. Eric Stanford, I think, got a piece of the 99 car. You saw Brandon Fetterplace was involved in this. I think there was a few other drivers. I know the 19 mentioned before got into this mess, and I believe Kalis got a small hit check as well.
It's a tough break, and we were close to getting to the white, but not close enough. And again, a change for P2. Agno Phillip was the man on the move. He drove up to 2nd spot. Yellow flag came out quickly, so he's likely going to find himself on the outside of the front row when we go back at it.
We get 3 total green-white checkered overtime attempts. If we don't make it back to the white flag, we reset, try it again for another one. This will be attempt 2 of 3. And then once we get to that 3rd attempt, which will be if we don't make the white flag this time by, then the race would end under the yellow flag. So far, we have not had a race yet, apart from the duels, that has finished under regulation time. Every single race so far has had only 1 overtime attempt. This race has had 2. It has been interesting, I think, to say the least, for these opening 3 races with us on a bit of an overtime streak here. I have to say, this is, I think to say this has been a show is a way to describe this one here. There's no more strategy, right? It's all, at this point, either mind games or just all-out aggression to the end.
And I don't mean to alarm you guys, but look who's in 4th now. Jeremy Miller. He's the first guy in fresh tires now. I'm watching that 13 because the 4 tires were coming when they were at full speed there in turn 3 and 4.
Yeah, Miller's going to advance to the outside of row 2. Danson going to find himself to the inside of row 3. So that's going to be 4th and 5th position respectively for the lead cars on fresh tires. If you remember, Miller started a couple of spots behind Danson, but Miller was on the bottom. Danson was on the top, and the inside worked out better for Miller. So Miller will be starting ahead of Danson, but they flip-flop. Danson now gets, in theory, that preferred bottom lane, and Miller's going to end up on the top.
So Jeremy Miller back in that 4th position, but with 3 drivers ahead of his Extreme Performance Motorsports Camry to get through, and it's getting by 1. That's easy enough when you're on the outside line, but you have to get ahead of the other 2. And so far, we've seen changes for the race lead come about from that front row before on the restarts. We have not necessarily seen them, though, from that 2nd row in these restarts all night long. At least not in the span of only 2 laps. So I think the potential for this to come down between Phillip and Harris is still very much alive. Phillip trying to go for a second win of the season for the defending champion. Harris trying to go for his first win of the season, as is Bowie, and in fact Miller as well. The next closest driver that has won a race so far is, of course, Esteban Rodriguez, but he sits way back in 14th. He is no longer a factor in who might be winning this race unless the top 13 take themselves out.
Never say never, the way they have been driving. So we'll see how this one continues to shake out. Do the lights go out this time by? They do. So we advance to our second attempt at Real Sim Racing Overtime. Remember, we need to get to the white flag for this race to be official. If we do, the only other flag you'll see is the checker, and this race is official. However, until that point, if a yellow comes out before then, just like it did on the first attempt, we would try it again. But this is attempt number 2 at an overtime restart. Fuel not a concern. Drivers recently pitted just 7 laps ago. We've already raced about 8 laps beyond scheduled distance, so this Las Vegas 200 turning more so into the Las Vegas 230 or 240. We'll see kind of how deep into the afternoon we go, but there's a couple of good storylines up for grabs. Cody Harris has 1 career race win. The driver competed for the 3rd time in the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, won last year's Bristol race in September. Can he get career win number 2? The story to the driver of the outside, Agno Phillip, a winner from just 7 days ago in Fontana. The defending champ wants to start racking up the bonus points for the round of 16 to the playoffs later this year. Pace car down and in. The 28 decides when this race gets back underway. He'll wait all the way to the end. Green flag in the air.
Cody Harris gets the good launch. Agno Phillip and Brandon Bowie both going to try to charge after him down and towards turn numbers 1 and 2, but nobody's able to break clear. So it's going to be a free ride for Cody Harris as he'll come up in turn number 2. Can he close with the draft? Here comes Danson, making it 3 wide, down to the inside for second place. Phillip clear from up top, being shot by Jeremy Miller through to second. Here comes the 94 car pulling around the outside. He'll pull alongside Cody Harris, 3 wide for the lead with 1 lap to go.
Danson on the inside, and Phillip on the outside. It's 4 tires for the 38 car, only 2 for the 94 as Harris drops to the wayside. This race is official. Miller watches on from 3rd. He's got 4 tires. Can he make a move? Danson tucks in line. Danson blocks to the inside, doing everything he can, but none of it's gonna matter in the end. They'll fight for second as Agno Phillip will beat out the wreck in overtime for his 2nd straight win. 2 on the year for Agno Phillip, and a massive accident with cars flipping behind him.
It is a classic RSR finish with overtime and cars flipping across our finish line. Agno Phillip takes the race win. Miller put Matt Danson up into the wall, and that allowed Casto a freebie up onto the podium. What a ride that we had once again from Las Vegas, Nevada, and once again a race that just cannot be beat anywhere else.
And in the end, who would have thought it was the guy on 2 tires holding off 2 drivers on 4? Danson had 4, Miller had 4. Danson tried to maybe loosen up Miller there a little bit to the bumper of Phillip, blocking the 13 car. And again, they just started fighting with each other. You'll see Miller squeezes Danson into the outside wall. They're going to wreck behind, but admittedly, by the time they got to turn number 4, Andrew, it was already done at that point, and Agno Phillip has got another.
I'm speechless. The 4 tires closed up so much on that first lap, and Agno somehow, the guy's got so much talent. I mean, he just fended them off, ran the high line and kept the speed up. I'm shocked and amazed, and just congratulations to him. That was so impressive. I'm speechless still.
What a drive for Agno Phillip's 7th career win. And listen, there's always a chance with 20 regular season races that you get more than 16 winners, that a win isn't enough for the postseason. he is now 100% locked in as a two-time winner this year. Let's take a look at your full race results tonight for the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Agnew Phillip, an A51 Pro X Altus, takes the win. It's an XPMP2 for Jeremy Miller, and Bowie Esports puts Sean Casto on the podium with a third. We'll try to talk with all of them in a moment. Lariah, Trudell, Schmidt, George, Danson, Whitaker, Bergoli, your top 10.
It is Eric Stanford to pick up 11th spot with Weimisser in 12th. Kostowitz falls from what could have been a race win down to 13th. Harris 14th. Wolsifer, Dunkelberger, Davis, Mara, Staney, and Bowie round out the top 20.
Continuing on through, Ross Cato finds himself back there in the number 21 position in this one. Eric Papineau led some laps. He only gets 27th out of this one, and again, a lot of these cars were up top at points, but just couldn't close it out.
And then, of course, that'll leave then the 31st place driver back here of Brandon Vetter plays. Nahon Flores back in, Steve Tucker back there in 31st place. Vetter placed in second. Flores was 33rd with Niata 34th. Pooler, Kolb, Tice, Light, Richmond, Renner, Kuczynski, Punkari, Mills rounding out the field with Woodruff and Phipps. Again, out-qualified in the race here tonight.
So look top to bottom at your full race results. Second time in a row, I think Agnew Phillip is too busy doing some burnout. So we'll catch up with him in a little bit. Let's go reverse order. Let's talk to P3 finisher tonight first. Nolan, you're down with Sean Casto.
Holy cow, what a ride for Sean Casto. And Sean, you come off at turn number 4. It's looking like you're going to have to settle for 4th, but then you see Miller throw dance it up into the outside wall. You net yourself a free 3rd place as a result of that one. It got to feel good, though, all things considered, after you had to start way back in the mid-pack.
Hell yeah, that was good fun. We shot our wad early. That 60 to go restart, I was banking on pitting there about 30 to go, and kind of climaxed a little too early there, if we say. But Jeremy was Jeremy there. We were thankful. I thought I was going to get a nice easy 4th place and not have to worry about getting in team speak, but we'll take that.
Overall, when it came down to the final pit stop, it was a 2-tire strategy for you. You were one of several drivers that took right sides, some took lefts. What was the call that they ended up to put you onto the 2-tire strategy instead of 4?
Well, I did about some Bears had about 10 hours of practice or so, and we certainly tried 2 tires at multiple points in the run. Actually, underfilled the previous run was too tight, so that was part of that problem. So she felt good. 4th place was probably where we were going to be there, and yeah, I mean we'll definitely take it, but it was the way to go for sure there.
Next week, we finally get set to slow it on down to the Phoenix Raceway for March 13th for race number 4. 156 laps around the race over in the Arizona desert. What's going to be your take as we get set to roll around to the 1 mile oval?
I like Phoenix. Phoenix is pretty fun. These cars, it's kind of a, I don't know, kind of a guess and check. Hard to pass, but you do have multiple lanes. I imagine the car will be loose. We get some more new physics updates, something like that. So we'll see what that does for us. Have to go in the lab for it. All in all, we're pretty excited for it.
Well, thank you for joining us up here tonight, then. What a great run for you tonight here, Sean. Congratulations on that 3rd place finish. Hard earned for that number 52 car. Best of luck out here next week in Phoenix.
For real quick, I want to say, if you go to Velocity USA, certainly velocityusa.com, actually, you'll get 10% off. Use shop % Velocity at the checkout. That's $100 off every 1,000 off. You can do that math, but it's pretty good stuff. Appreciate you guys.
That was Sean Cass joining us up here from 3rd place. We'll move on down to the 2nd place driver here today. It is Jeremy Miller, the driver that by far gained the most spots out of anybody today. Jeremy, plus 36. You start from 38th spot. You finish all the way up in 2nd place as the runner-up. What was it like having to fight your way from the very back all the way up to the very front?
Yeah, I just want to start, obviously, by apologizing to Matt Danson first off, though. I didn't mean to cost him that many spots coming to the line. I was just trying to race him hard and get the spot over him. Sorry, it cost him like 5 more spots there. But, you know, it was a long race. I choked qualifying really bad. Was scared I was going to miss the race for a second. We got really loose out of 2 on our lap and ran like a 4 or something like that and just barely even made the race with that. And then just tire saving was the name of the game tonight, so I decided to actually save tires, which is something I've not typically done, but I ran really conservative all night. And on the long runs, I'd pick up about 10 spots at the back of each run, and then they would wreck, and then we'd run another 30-lap run, pick up about 10 spots, and then they would wreck. Just slowly move forward with that, and that last 30-lap run put ourselves in the top 5 and had a fighting chance on the green white checkers.
You mentioned, of course, the situation of kind of having these wrecks every 30 laps or so. It seemed like a lot of that stemmed from not just the tires, but the fact that everybody was running so close over the course of the race tonight. It really was a pack race from start to finish. What do you think it was about Las Vegas that contributed this race to being far closer than most other mile-and-a-halfs out here on the calendar?
I mean, it's a pretty high grip racetrack, a lot of banking, pretty wide corners, and not the oldest surface, not the newest surface, but for some reason this one tends to race a little more packy than most of the mile-and-a-halfs do. We're kind of put in a box right now with the tire model we have, where you kind of all have to race on top of each other, because if you go too fast and drive away, you're going to end up wrecking yourself about 20 laps into these runs, and that just creates that pack racing effect, and it's just not necessarily the most fun thing, but it is what it is right now on the surface.
And of course, when we look down to how things are looking for the championship hopes for you coming on over into today's race, it was a good drive for you as things sat, but this second place is going to propel you right up the standings here. Are you looking set to try to make I know it's a bit early to say, but are you hoping to maybe make a run at the playoffs here come September?
Yeah, I mean, if we could have finished one spot better there, we'd be in already. So I think that's the goal every week, is to go and punch your ticket and win as many races as we can. I think I'm a lot better than I was last year. I'm going to run more this year, and I think we should be top 16, barring something ungodly happen come playoff times if we don't get that win.
Well, just keep logging those consistent finishes away. You've proved you have the pace to be a race winner here tonight. Just came about one lap short. Hopefully, we'll be able to get you on one better, and we'll talk to you on Victory Lane hopefully next week from Arizona.
Thanks.
That's Jeremy Miller, the Extreme Performance Motorsports number 13 Toyota Camry, joining us up here from second place. That moves on down to the man of the hour, the one that had the strategy with the left sides. And Evan, you're going to be standing by with Agnew Phillip.
He was a race winner just 1 week ago at the Auto Club Speedway. He is a race winner again now here tonight at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Agnew Phillip has got 2 already in 2023. We're with the driver of the 94 Chevy. And Agnew, feels like we were just doing this, but congratulations on another Cup Series win.
Hey, thanks, Evan. Appreciate it. Yeah, that was a wild race. You know, I thought we were in good shape a couple of times through there, and then I completely mismanaged that second to last run, and I don't know. I honestly have no idea how I'm sitting here. I was just messaging Drew that I guess I got some of his luck from his runs through the years, where it always seemed like he figured a way to pull it out. But yeah, I mean, what a race. That was quite intense, kind of all the way through, and it was pretty fun overall.
I mean, they do say winners win, and despite leading those 60 laps, you're right. I mean, it all the way comes down to a second attempt at overtime. Let's talk broadly first. You talk about management through this race, right? We saw some drivers, especially in the earlier runs, just go full bore, rocket out to the lead, and then absolutely drop like an anchor. So there was clearly a lot of saving going on. How did that balance play out through the middle of the race?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of been this way for almost a year at this point with this car, where, you know, it really is just a kind of trade-off between short run and long. And, you know, you kind of wanted to save quite a bit of your tires at the beginning of the run, and while kind of maintaining track position, and kind of get yourself into a good window where you were close enough to the lead where you could make use of your tires without having to burn them up, like trying to get back through there. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting, kind of knowing, you know, I'm very convinced that the way that I was managing the first part of this race was the right way to do it. So it's always kind of interesting to watch when other guys take a very different route, and there are versions of how this race could have played out where that would have worked out for them. And then apparently that went all out the window on that second to last run, and Spencer completely outmaneuvered me there, which credit to him. I know he's a little newer in the league, so it's cool to watch that. But it sounds like it's going to change up quite a bit with an update that iRacing is doing. I don't think we'll probably be saving quite this bad or quite this much as we have been for the last like 8-9 months, but we'll have to see how that kind of comes out and see how that affects the racing. But yeah, I mean, it's also kind of tough, and right now with how caution prone these races seem to be, it can kind of be a little tough to actually figure out what the right strategy is, because you just don't know when that caution is going to come out, and that could get you on the wrong side of it one way or another.
This is an interesting stretch of the season. We talked about this at the start of the broadcast, the fact that we're racing here tonight at Vegas, a racetrack that we're going to be returning to in a couple of weeks, or actually I should say much later this year though, but for a critical playoff race to open the round of 8. But then the next couple of weeks, we're going to Phoenix next week. That's the site of the championship. We go to Atlanta the week after that. There's another Atlanta race in the regular season. How critical is it to be good at this stretch of tracks, knowing that these are some of the very few tracks that we're going to visit twice?
Oh, it's super critical. And I think if you look at the last 2 years or the last 2 campaigns I've had in RSR, a win at Darlington last year, a win at Phoenix the year before, I think the folks who are able to pull out the wins and run up front here, like they kind of make a statement of intent, so to speak, of kind of, that they're going to be there. If they can make it through the other rounds, they're going to be there right at the end. So, it's a really fun stretch. Like I said, with the, kind of changes to the car on here, I honestly don't know how I'm going to do. We'll have to see how much seat time I get with this and how quickly I figure it out. But, it'll be kind of like an interesting time, right? Because these are kind of high skill tracks, so to speak, or at least as far as ovals are, relatively high skill, with Phoenix, obviously, and Darlington, and I forget what else is in this kind of stretch. But, I think you have those combined with kind of a curveball being thrown for the entire field, where it's going to kind of be unclear what the optimal way to drive these races are for a little bit. So I think it's going to be really interesting. I think you're going to see some of the familiar names up towards the front, but there might be some curveballs thrown in there. There have been guys like Spencer today who did really good. Esteban has been really fast so far. Maybe the change will kind of suit their driving style a bit more, and they'll be kind of right there and really continuing to compete for wins and closing some of these races out. So I'm excited to see how it kind of all plays out. It's good to look at it with excitement, since I don't really have to worry about the playoffs or points or anything, since I'm already locked in, and we've got a couple bonus points here with the wins. But we'll just take it 1 week at a time and just have fun with it. I think that's the main thing right now, is I'm having a lot of fun kind of doing these races and trying to figure out how to be the winner that you were talking about, and figuring out how to win.
Getting the job done right now, and you're right, a lot of guys led laps tonight, including the likes of Eric Papineau, Gregory Shaw, Spencer Kostowicz, and others. But in the end, it is you in victory lane once again. Agno, we will let you get out of here. But again, congratulations on now a double-time race winner, and we'll see how the search for the three-peat goes when we go racing next week at the virtual Phoenix Raceway. Little birdie told me you've had some success there in recent memory.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, Evan. Appreciate it. Thank you for all you do.
There is your 2022 Cup Series champion and race winner tonight in the Las Vegas 200. It is Agno Phillip on top of the board. Of course, referencing that success at Phoenix because, well, he won at Phoenix last year for the championship race, Nolan. So that's obviously the reference there. So if we count that one, he's won 3 of the last 4. Agno Phillip is on top of his game right now.
He certainly is. I think Agno Phillip proved tonight that despite all of the chaos that these races can bring about, he still knows exactly what it takes to get things done. He put that car exactly where he needed it to, ended up leading the most laps, so he comes out of this race with the maximum number of points possible. And of course, that's going to net him more bonus points come playoff time.
And we do go back to that Phoenix Raceway next week, Andrew. That is the site of the championship every year here now, but we go there for a spring edition of racing in Avondale, Arizona. What are these drivers in store for in 1 week?
Yeah, we really don't know. We're getting a build this week, so the car is going to change a lot. If it's anything like last year, it's going to be the same way. You're going to have to save tires, not push too hard, and Agno Phillip proved that he could do it. I mean, he was right there with Kevin King that whole run last year and took 2 tires to end up winning it. think I'm going to jump back behind the wheel. Love that track. So excited to get back out there, mix it up with these boys. But Agnell Phillips on top of his game, and I think he's by far the favorite going into next week.
We look forward to seeing you down there trackside for that one, and we look forward for everybody to join us then. But until that next time, that is it here tonight for iRacing's virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I want to say a big thanks on behalf of everybody involved at RaceSpotTV, at RealSimRacing, and of course for your broadcast crew tonight. For our director, Joshua Lee, for our driver analyst, Andrew Freenosh, for Terry Radford, Nolan Rempel, and myself, Evan Pasoko. I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate a two-time winner already in 2023, Agnell Phillip, on being victorious in tonight's Las Vegas 200. The road to the Full Throttle Cup continues next Monday night for round 4 for iRacing's virtual Phoenix Raceway. That race and every race of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series can be found exclusively here on RaceSpot TV. Till next time, good night from Sin City.